Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shift Happens radio show. We've been live for many moons. However, I kind of dip in and dip out, and I have awarenesses, and sometimes I'm not quite so aware. And I'm back to a very more aware stage in my life. Or not that I wasn't before, but the fact is that comes with doing the radio show a necessity to be the truth, but in order to do that, you have to have a certain amount of strength and willingness, thus to more of a willing stage at this point. And I apologize if there's noise in the background, but we're using a speaker, which makes things easier for me to speak and air and do the show. My name is Ellen Carrier, and though that is a name, it really isn't all that important. And for some people, whatever I say today may not be important to them at all, and some people may write me off as being totally nuts, and that's all right. But I decided, I woke up this morning needing to speak, and the first thing that came to my mind was that the line has been drawn for humanity. And it's a line that really is going to change everything that we know as real today. When I say this, I know that sounds a little scary. Well, the truth is that it is quite scary, in that everything in our life that we've been taught to believe is really not the truth. Almost 17 years ago, short a month, something happened that put incredible fear in humanity. It divided people. And it was a horrific experience. And for many people still today, they believe that what happened as a result of evil religious sect. And the fact is that is not the case whatsoever. Sorry, open the window, the curtain, so that the cat can look out the window. And as a direct result of what happened then, today, everything that surrounds us, everything that has transpired is based on that lie. It was an insurance/war, do I dare say that, drill. It wasn't even a drill, but it was. It's just like a lot of these horrific events that we've been seeing. If you notice, there's a drill that's scheduled in the area, and then all of a sudden it happens. Doesn't that kind of make you go, So the line has been drawn, anyway, for me in my life. I chose many years ago, outside of this, what we call system that controls, manipulates, suggests that we be. If you've ever seen the movie, I think it came out in 1988. The name of the movie is called They Live. If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, you'll find it. They Live. The fact is that for over 100 years, in this current, I think, this timeline we're living in, We have been very meticulously directed to be as we are today. And if you choose not to be, then you are ostracized. And this is a fact. I decided back in 2009 to step outside that box. In that, what I did was I started looking outside the lines, and I realized how incredibly powerful we are. Are looking for others like yourself, just beginning the journey. I'd like to share an experience that I had yesterday. As I said, the Shift Happens radio show has been going on since approximately 2009, on many different venues, but I seem to end up back at Blog Talk. It's easy. It makes life easier for myself. I understand it. Anyway, so I bought a prepaid card yesterday to pay for the show. I don't do traditional banking. I'll explain that at some point in time, but at this point, what's important is I bought a card. It was and I was going to use it as a one-time for the month purchase of doing the radio show. I brought the card home and started to use it, and they wouldn't allow me to use it. And I called. It took me probably 40 minutes just to figure out what was going on. What I had actually purchased was a debit card that can be used repeatedly. So in order for me to use this money, I had to sign up for this. Now this is where I was absolutely, let's call it enlightened. I mean, I saw exactly how corrupted and distorted our system is. And when I say the system, I mean in general how everything in our world functions, or maybe I should say dysfunctions. The person on the other end of the card, after I'd finally realized that I would, in order to access these funds, I had to sign up for the entire account or I would lose the funds. So I said, all right, I'm going to do it. I had already reached a level of frustration because the system that we live in, this, I'm going to say, mental cage, terrarium, ship, whatever your reality is that we live in, has us basically on lockdown. And though they may say it's not true, here is a very harsh reality. As I'm setting everything up for this account, not only do they require my Social Security card, now when I bought the card, they didn't ask for any of this information. I just paid for it. But they actually asked me for my driver's license because they had to identify me, even though I was using it for the $50, not to be used again. And then I said, why do I need to have this? This is ridiculous. All I want to do is take this money out and use it. It's a one-time thing. Oh, no, well, we have to. And ever since 9/11, and that really put me over the edge. Because the fact is, here is a credit banking card, supposedly not attached to the system, already knew and had all of my information on my card, as in my driver's license. And though the license, I had changed the address on it, I hadn't made the physical change of it. So they were insisting on the current address, and I realized that we are in such a mess. We are living in such a, I dare say, communist, Nazi controlled system, and nobody realizes this. They already have all of my personal information, yet they are forcing me to give them that in order to access the money that I already put in this card. So think about it. And look at what's going on in our world today. Look at what's happening with the government. Look what's going on with Hollywood. Listen to the people who are screaming, raving, mad and crazy in front of the cameras. Why is that? Why is it when you turn on the TV, and I'm sorry, folks, no, I'm not sorry. I don't actually turn on regular TV. On a very rare occasion, I will sit in front of it with another friend. But the fact is that I no longer can look at the television and see truth. A little history on myself. I am an FCC licensed broadcaster. And in the late 90s, I walked away from the system because they wanted me to lie. So I've had firsthand experience of how that whole mainstream media works. I, at that time, could not align with, and still cannot, and even more so today than ever, cannot align with that. When I chose to be a broadcaster, I was choosing to be the voice of truth. Obviously, something went awry a long time ago. And it went awry even before you or I were born. It's just been meticulously honed. It's been meticulously tucked into this box of false reality that everybody is supposed to accept and believe. So here I am, and I'm going to go back to my phone call with this woman who was doing this job because I'm sure it's about putting money in the bank so that she can pay all her bills and pay her rent and blah, 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 because that's the mentality that everybody has been programmed to live in, unless you are on the outside looking in now, or maybe getting ready to be on the outside looking in. So this woman is spouting off about 9/11, and I was past the stage of frustration, and I came unglued and I said, don't you realize what this is about? Don't you realize? She said, this is only a card. And I said, no, it isn't. That whole scenario that happened almost 17 years, 17 years ago, was nothing more than an insurance scam, basically killing two birds with one stone. They wanted to perpetuate and create a war system, a war mentality, a reason to monitor freely, without question, people. And that's here in the United States. I said, don't you get it? And she said, this woman had no clue. So, of course, I finished everything, and it's all done, yes. But it's bothered me since yesterday. So I decided, because we've set the show up, and I'm going to continue to offer thought. We have another show coming up tomorrow, which is Wednesday, at 8 o'clock Wednesday evening. You're more than welcome to join us. We're going to talk pretty seriously about the alphabet agencies. It will be a lot of fun, and it will be very informative. It will be more on the basics for those of you who are beginning to look for answers, and maybe a little bit of a refresher for others who are already on the outside looking in. So that whole scenario with this gal really got me to the point of total frustration, and of course, obviously, left me thinking, we really have to do something. And that's why I decided to make this show, The Line Has Been Drawn. That line has been, when is it that we start acting, not reacting? You see, we've all been taught to kind of, react. Reacting is basically the outward action of a programmed thought. So you have everybody in the not everybody, but there's a good portion of humanity now that is basically at war with each other. Think about that. At war with each other. Because what is happening right now is this is kind of like the last in the line of dividing and conquering all of humanity. It's about that final stage of programming where people who have, and I love my family and I love my extended family, and I have great love for humanity. However, we've been duped. And the only way this changes is if each and every one of us starts to pay attention and starts to question and starts to say no and literally refuses, and maybe not refusing, but it's about questioning everything that's going on around you. My first question would be, why is it that we have so many investigations going on in our government, And there's never an answer to those investigations. Have you noticed that? And all they do is suck more money out of the system, which money is really all it is an illusion. Why is it that everybody is yelling and screaming about our current president? Did we do that with any other president ever? No. What's going on? Think about this. I'm not saying that we have to turn around and say he's the all to be all, end all, whatever. There isn't any of us that are that. However, and I would not want to be in his position whatsoever, he stepped in and said, okay, you people chose me. I'm going to do my best. So why is the government, the people, and Hollywood, look at Hollywood. It's worse than being in the high school cafeteria. When one sorority is pointing their fingers and yelling and screaming at the other. It's like a street fight. That's not who we are. Think about this. Do you live like that? Do you want to continue to live like that? This is only my perspective, and I hope that in what I'm saying, you have the opportunity to kind of look at how you live, how you speak. A positive or a negative for yourself and those around you. Ultimately, there isn't anything I can do to make you or anyone else change. However, if I can plant a seed that helps you open your own door to create the change that you need to become a better person, yay, I'm glad. So back to this whole government thing. So we've had how many investigations that have really, truly never brought to fruition a truthful, honest answer? Why is it that our mainstream media sources keep, when one issue dies down and one traumatic or fear-based incident kind of loses its energy, that something else comes in and there we go again? Have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, these people on TV that give you the news every day, that act on the stage and play their roles in the movies, might be paid to do just that, to create fear, to create terror, create a false thought system? Give it a few minutes. You don't have to say yes. You don't have to say no. Just make a note of it even. Grab a pen, a piece of paper, and just make a note. So here you are. If you still watch mainstream media, let's go even further down the pike on this, all right? You have, let's even go the line of professional sports. What happens every time there's a football game, a basketball game, whatever the case may be, then you see 3 people. More than likely, one is a regular news announcer. One is probably a sports aficionado, and the other is likely a former pro player in that field or whatever. Excuse me. And the three of them are sitting there and they're sharing their perspective. So let's jump back to the news. What happens on the news? All of a sudden, they have 2 or 3 people. Look at your morning shows. What do they have? 3 people sharing their perspective. What happens with all these girl shows where they're talking about humanity going on? And are they even talking about something that really makes a difference? My life is not dictated by those shows. However, there are many people who still live by those. Can we shift that thinking? I sincerely hope that can happen, because we are at the place where the line has been drawn. So if you are tired of being the bad guy because you're being the voice of truth, please do not be dismayed. Still remain the truth. Even if you get through to one person, you've done your job. The only way that we are going to be able to change humanity is one step at a time. It's an inside job. And if we don't change ourselves, how can anything else change? How do you start with that change? There's many things. We have such surveillance going on. We have so much doodah. We'll put it that way. Are you still on Facebook? Do you still use Twitter? Have you ever thought about what goes on when you flip on Facebook and you start sharing your stuff? I've had this conversation with my niece and many other people. But I guarantee you that there's a complete file of everything and anything that you have ever said, ever. Guaranteed. Facebook, if you think that idiot created Facebook, forget it. All he is a face. He's actually part of that small percentage that has taken every last dime and lost it because they don't have any money left. No one has any real money left. And what is money? You can wipe your butt with it. But the fact is that it really holds no value. All it is a piece of paper that was created to control humanity. Money is just as addictive as sugar is, as alcohol is, as drugs are, as sex is. You name it. There's how many different addictions out there. So the line has been drawn. It's all an illusion. You don't have to have $1 million to be happy. Comes from within. I would just suggest that in the next 24 hours that you take stock. That's right. Make an inventory of who you are, what you are, and what's important to you. Is it really all that money? Of course, in this day and time, there is a necessity for many things. But as I said, the line has been drawn in the sand. And all of that elusive you must have, it's the insurances, it's the medical, it's the security, it's the, all of this, these systems that are supposedly here to make life easier and to create safety and to create ease. Take a look at them again, and what of them do you really need? It's kind of like all these companies that haunt you about getting a special VPN private network so that you can be safe and so that nobody can look at what you're doing and saying. Folks, let's get real. The fact is that the VPNs are all a means of somebody lining their pocket so that they can satisfy an elusive thought that they've given you. So I'm going to suggest that you take time today and take an inventory of yourself and who you are. You don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. I think that the only thing that you need to do is get quiet, turn off the noise, and ask yourself what's up. Because the reality is the only power in this world is your own self. The reason all of this noise is happening is because more and more and more people are realizing that we are our own answer. And that once you turn around and see the reality of how incredibly powerful, incredibly gifted we all are, and that all of this stuff that they have put in front of us that tells us that we will be a better person if we have this car, or a better person if we have this house, or tons of money in the bank, or an incredible education. Here, I'm going to take that one right now. I have friends, and I can say specifically within the last 4 years, 2 friends who felt that they needed to get this degree in order to fulfill and be and access a better financial base in their life. And they thought that if they went to college, if they went to this special educational program and paid the money, that when that came time and you graduated or you got your whatever it was certificate, and then you went out and got a job, that it would make things better in the long run. Let me tell you something. Both of these women who were up to their freaking eyebrows in debt because of this college that they enrolled in and paid. This isn't just a couple of $100, thousands of dollars. And today, they are working minimum wage, just over minimum wage jobs. And when it comes time to pay the rent, they are deeper in debt than they were before they went to school. What is wrong? Think about it again. So you have people who are looking for a way to increase that bottom line, that financial scenario, so that they can find some kind of ease in their life. And so they're told, oh, you should do this. Oh, you should do that. You need to go. Okay. And people do it, and they end up even in more debt. Think about that word, all a lie. The whole purpose of this system is it's a debt-based system. The only place they want you to be is in debt. So what will it take you to get out of debt? Before the finance even changes, you have to change your mindset. Because that's where it starts. Remember I mentioned acting and reacting? When you go out and get another education, that's a reaction from a systematic, systemic statement that has been perpetuated over the last at least 70 years. If you don't have a college education, you are not valuable enough. You will not get paid well. McFly! Think about it. I have family members. I have friends. I have known other people that I've met whom I've not had a long-term friendship with, but they're associates, I guess you could say. But people that I've met who have clearly told me they're broke. They're scrambling at the end of the month or the middle of the month, whatever the scenario is, just to make ends meet. That's inherently wrong. Yes, there are people who just don't know how to do it. But why is it that we live in a system that is telling us the only answers are this way and you have to spend money to get it? What about the banking system? Why is it that we have such a, look at the system, people who barely can pay their rent and people who can't. And they have a bank account where the banking system penalizes you when you don't have enough money, and then they increase that problem by what is it? And I don't do traditional banking because of this. What are they charging now? If you overdraft, if you go over the amount in your account, what do they nail you for? I have no clue. I don't have any idea. But at the time that I walked away from it, I believe it was at $35. And I know that there are people that intentionally don't care and they write checks and whatever. But again, I know two people. This is crazy, but it is. I know two people specifically in the last 6 months who had their accounts not only frozen, but their accounts had been basically looted by someone. And when the people brought in the information and the truth to the banking system, they were the bad guys. It wasn't the person that actually had the wherewithal to take the funds. The person who owned the account was considered guilty, and it took legal action in order for them to recoup what they had lost. So then they had to pay a lawyer. These are people that were working one woman was retired, and one woman was working retail, and she herself is a grandmother. Make some sense out of this for me. What is wrong with our system? But what's worse is that we've allowed it, that we have taken no responsibility for this getting to this point. And I'm not saying you're all bad. And when I say you, I include myself. But there is a point in time where we have to say, chuck it and do something about it. So I'm sitting here talking with you, and I have made decisions and moved forward and stepped outside of that system. Just a little quick scenario or little brief bio of what and how. When I first started my little journey back in 2009, I thought I was going to change the world and show people how powerful they really were, energetically as well as in our mind. It's not just the energetics of things, but it's the mental power. It's the power of the heart. But I got a very rude awakening in 2009. And that is that all those people that say, yeah, I want to wake up, when really faced with that opportunity, we're too busy. Thus, all of my ideas and my aspirations, and here I'm going to change the world, ended quite abruptly. And there I was sitting there, and I was without. I had this lovely woman in the spiritual church that had helped me out, got a van. Thank you, Reverend Margaret Rose. And this began my journey of waking up. Now, granted, I didn't get the message right away, because after that happened, I was sitting there without and feeling like it was their fault, not mine. It's real easy to blame other people for our own stuff, because that is really the American way. But, you know, the old saying is, you got one finger pointing at you, you got at others, you've got three coming back at yourself. And that's the truth. And so I had to go through this whole dance of it being their fault that I was living as I was living. You see, I got a van, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna travel and teach the world. Well, nobody wanted to learn crapola from me. But really, it was all about me learning about me. And so I got to start doing that. And the fact is that I didn't have a real home base, even though, you know, I love Florida, except it's a little hot right now. But the fact is that I had to go through that transition, that stage of realizing, and let me spell that for you, REAL-EYEZ. ING. There's a difference between realizing and realizing. Because a realize, when you just are realizing that things are, it's kind of a mental thought. But when you are realizing, realizing, excuse me, hang on a sec. Okay. When you are realizing, you're seeing yourself in the entire scenario, or at least in the scenario within what you're looking at right at that point in time. So you become the observer, the outside looking in. And I got to tell you, it took me a while before I realized that the only way anything could change is if I changed myself. I used the radio show and will continue to use the radio show. Its purpose and intent has shifted quite a bit over the last years. Still the intention, and it will still be my intention, to keep a door open for people to choose change in their own lives. Sometimes the tone of it can be a little harsh in that, my statement used to be, I'm here to piss people off and make them think. I still think that. However, I don't have to present it that way. And so I'm here to present scenarios and opportunities for you all to look at your own life in a different reality than the current. Because if your life is stinking, you got to change your thinking. So in my journey from 2009 on, in that first round of traveling the world and I'm going to change it, I got the opportunity to change me, and that's been a daily event, a daily occurrence. I learn something new always. But I still had to go through a myriad of experiences that made me get more out of my ego. And let me tell you, it's still there. You can tell by my tone, I'm sure. But I try not to make it my choice, my driving focus. Back to my journeys, and I'm living a very, very different and very interesting life, which for many you would look at me and you would call me a bum. But I can guarantee you that I have one of the richest, most fruitful, caring, loving lives that anyone could ever experience. I have family members who have, and it's taken quite a bit of time, but they've embraced the fact that I am a nomadic person. And this has been my life. I've traveled cross-country a half a dozen times, easily, I can say, maybe even more than that. I've been up and down the eastern seaboard several times. And I always embrace the thought of testing my own reality. I embrace the thought of stepping outside of the norm zone. Leaving that comfort zone can be a very scary thing for a lot of people. But the truth is, as soon as you step outside that comfort zone and you do something that you never thought you ever really could do, another miracle happens, because you see yourself even more as the power that you are. You don't have to have billions of dollars. You don't have to have this amazing vehicle. You don't have to be some powerhouse CEO. As a matter of fact, I know many people who have been in that position who've walked away from it because they woke up one morning and said, why am I here? What am I doing this for? And it seems to me that that's happening more and more every day, every hour. So we're at the place where the line has been drawn. And that line has been drawn on many, many levels. What are you doing in your own life that makes you happy? What are you doing in your own life that doesn't make you happy? What if it's time for you to do your own personal inventory? Take a piece of paper and write down what works for you and what doesn't work for you. What are you willing to shift and change in your thinking or your actions or your living scenario that would create ease for yourself, that would create a better sense of freedom or happiness or unity or whatever the case may be? I think we've been so blinded by all the noise that's going on in front of us and around us that we're not allowing ourselves to really be who we really are. What do you think? I know that I can tell you this, that today, and I'm 62 years old. Am I? Yes. Soon to be 63. And I live the most unconventional life you will ever find. I'm an old hippie, what some people would call me. A lot of people would call me a lazy bum or a nomadic. No, they wouldn't even call me nomadic. But what I've succeeded in doing is I've created my own world. I've created my own life. It's taken years to be accepted by some. And there'll be many who will not ever accept me. But I live nomadically. I have taken a van, a regular plain old work van, and I've made it into my own little coach. That's right. I had an RV for a while, but you really can't go a hell of a lot of places and park wherever you want without the world getting mad because it doesn't fit into their perspective. It doesn't fit into their system or their mindset. So I travel. I get the opportunity. I just came back from Asheville. Beautiful, beautiful country. I created my own life. I created my own perspective. It's not been easy because we live in a world that has programmed each and every one of us to be part of this mental structure that really is not truth. You aren't anything like myself. I am not like anyone else in this world, and I know it, and I embrace it. All these kids that they're labeling as ADHD, and they have this and they have that. Well, the fact is that they see outside the line. They don't belong within that system, and they know it. And they check out. They go into their own reality because that's where they want to be. And our system knows that. They know that we're evolving. They know that our vibration and our frequencies are rising beyond what they can control. And so they're trying to use other lower frequencies, lower energies, lower systems to continue to keep us unaware of what really is transpiring. So, as I said, make an inventory for yourself. If you're happy, that's fantastic. Still make your inventory and figure out what else you want to change in your life. We live in an absolutely interesting point in time for humanity. This is just the intro today of what's to come. The only way anything in our world is going to change is if we change ourselves and how we are doing things today. Remember Prince, and I had this really huge awareness. And remember there came a day when he changed his name and everybody was calling him the man we knew formerly as Prince, came to a reality. This is a very huge awakening for me, and maybe it's not huge, but it's just an awareness that I had this morning. He realized the truth of this world, of this system, of the way things are at this time. And he knew that all he was a name, and so he removed that name. He changed himself. Do you need to remove your name and change yourself? Who knows? I know today I have a great life. I get to travel. I take care of animals. I see friends, family. I see mountains. I get to be quiet. I can go into the noise if I want to, but in all honesty, I choose to live in peace and quiet. I love the woods, the sounds of the crickets and the squirrels and the raccoons and even the panthers and whatnot, the crows, everything. I love the sound of nature. Kind of brings you back to square one when you're doing that. So if you want to create change, if you want to see things change in this world, you want to cross that line, what can you do for yourself to make your life better? The only way it's going to change is if you change it. It's my experience. I know it. I know it well. And I haven't all the answers, and I know that I still am going to be doing a lot of changing. I know that I have so much more to learn. What's that old saying? The more I know, the less I know. That's a fact. So my name is Ellen. This is the Shift Happens radio show. If you care to comment, you are more than welcome to. I can't promise that I will get back to you and respond, but I will try and read your responses. You can reach me at info.shift.my.thinking@gmail.com. That's info.shift.my.thinking@gmail.com. We have a big show tomorrow night. It'll be at 8 o'clock. That's Wednesday evening. And we'll be talking with a person that I really have much respect for. He's not from the United States, but he came here and he became a part of the United States. His name is Tommy Williams. And he has been, I think, a huge positive. I'm sure he wouldn't call himself a leader, but I think he is. And he is going to be a guest on the show tomorrow night. We'll be talking about the system as it is right now in all those alphabet agencies and whatnot. A lot of information. You might want to have a notepad. Starts at 8 o'clock tomorrow night on the Shift Happens radio show. I truly appreciate you and all you are and what you do, and I hope that you make every day that you live from here on out the best day that you have ever lived. And if not, if it wasn't, that at least you can take with you from what happened, you can take that and you can turn it around so that when that scenario appears again, you have the opportunity to say, I don't have to do it that way this time. I can do things differently. Because this is where we are at. The line has been drawn, as I said. The only way change happens is when it comes from within us. Now, if what in the past has not worked, isn't it time that we change what we do now and in the future to create a better humanity, to create a better world for the children, our grandkids? It's time. So visualize that line in the sand. What is it that you can change in yourself? I thank you for listening. This is the Shift Happens radio show. You have my permission to pass this link on to anyone else. You will also be able to view it on YouTube at the Shift Happens radio show. Once again, my name is Ellen. If you do have something you'd like to share, info.shift.my.thinking@gmail.com, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.